Good evening, everyone. I would like to call this evening's King's Board of Education regular board meeting to order. Mr. Morrow, can you please call the roll?
Ms. Phillips, Ms. Groff, Ms. Cowan, Mr. Belfrom, Mr. Skrull.
Here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull.
Yes. First item on our agenda this evening is reports and presentations. Mr. Sears, I'll hand it over to you.
Yep. Thank you very much. A couple of presentations this evening. The first one is obviously as we get school started and we're navigating the first few days. I think we're all starting to see some great progress on the new high school construction site. And so we're fortunate this evening to have two folks that are kind of leading that charge for us with HGC Construction here tonight to not only talk about the initial bid packages that went out, but kind of the next few months, what to expect. And they've got some visual images of some of the great progress. So please welcome Bill Brownback and Dave. Gosh, sorry, Dave, my bad.
All right. I'm going to kind of go through at least whoever's controlling that dude. If you go to the second slide, I'm going to just talk through a little bit about the progress we've made at Columbia before we get into the high school. So we started that job back in January, probably 18 inches of snow on the ground and freezing cold temps. And we committed to a very accelerated schedule over at Columbia. In fact, we said we'd do it in 9 months. And I'm standing here happy to report that we are going to meet that date and turn that thing over in that time frame. So we've been over there for a while, but since everybody's been gone, faculty and staff for the summertime, I'll just give a brief update on kind of what we've been able to complete. We had 3 major pieces that we wanted to get done while the students and faculty were out of the building. One was the chiller replacement so that we would kind of do a big upgrade to the existing HVAC system. The other was we tore out the ceilings in the main corridor going down the middle of the building and put in new HVAC lines, electrical conduit, new sprinkler systems going, and all of this was going out to the new addition back from the main mechanical room. Got all that done, ceilings back in, cleaned up, and got out of the way for Matt and his team to be able to do some floor waxing and painting and get that building back ready for everybody returning. And then the other big one was the playground. The new addition that you can see up there in some of those photos went right where the old playground was. So part of this Columbia project was to put a new playground in on the opposite side of the school over by the ball fields. And that went really well also. All of that equipment came in on time. It's all brand new equipment over there. We got the mulch and the playground surfacing completed and got that thing inspected and cleaned up just in the nick of time for school to return. In fact, I think it was in time for popsicles on the playground, just maybe a day early. So that all went really well. And now we've been able to kind of move back inside our construction fence, get out of and around the existing building and kind of move back into our space. But we did not forget about the addition while we were out there working. So we've had some really good progress in the addition over the summer as well. We were able to complete the roof and had that inspected by the roofing manufacturer to ensure that was installed properly and the warranty is good. We also completed all the brickwork, which is probably the biggest change that you'll see when you're over there because it's just such a visual item. All the brickwork finished up, and we also coordinated with the school's commissioning agents to confirm that all the brick and flashing and everything was done properly. With that brickwork done, it's kicked off a lot of new work. So windows are going in, all the courtyard stuff starting to come together. That courtyard is going to be a really cool space for the students and the teachers there. All that concrete paving is now done in the courtyard, which you can see on that photo as well. So we're backing out of that courtyard back into the main site. And in August, what you'll see is a lot of the kind of ceiling items finishing up. We've got the grid in. We're getting ready to do all the lighting and the sprinkler drops and everything kind of in the main fit out of that place. And then as soon as we get into September, the goal would be to finish up. So we're going to turn on the HVAC system, the new air handler unit to get some cooling going and kind of get things ready for finishes. We'll do flooring, final painting, casework, and all the finishing touches that need to go into that school to have it ready to go. So by October 1, our plan is to turn over the first piece of this whole program back over to the Kings community. So it's all gone really well over at Columbia.
All right, kind of leading into the high school site. So just kind of want to go through some pictures and if we can go down to the fourth page there, please. Construction has been started, going very well out at the construction site out there at the high school. We are at finished elevation grade. So if you look at the site out there right now, you can kind of see where the lower level arena elevation is going to be at, as well as the big footprint for the main building pad all the way around there. So it kind of gives you a perspective view of kind of what everything's going to look like. Next slide, please. So yesterday we hit a milestone on the project. So we actually topped out our big mound of dirt out there. So it's at an elevation where we can call it a mountain now. So it has been named Mount Lucky out on the job site. So congratulations, Matt. You got your name on something out there.
Their topping out ceremony.
Yep. So, but no, as you go out there, it is a tremendous mound of dirt. So one thing that we talked about early on was that dirt was needed to be mounded up. And we kind of pulled back some of the early site package to minimize that dirt. There's actually a lot more dirt that needs to come out of that site, but everything you see there will eventually be moved over to the south site once we can get that next bid package out down the road. So that's what that's stored for. It's in a strategic location because right on the other side of that is that big valley that we're going to be infilling, kind of where some of those streams and stuff go through. You know, this is very close to what you'll see until we get to that next site package out on the project. Next slide, please. Just a couple other drone shots that are out there, just to give you a perspective that, you know, large site, almost every square inch that we could possibly take out there has already been dirt moved, modified, starting storm structures and stuff like that on site. So everything's going really well. Couple more pictures and you can flow through those pretty quick. All right, kind of getting down to the next 6 months outlook. So this is kind of a bar chart of what things are going to look like for the next 6 months, but I'll kind of give you a high level view. Next subcontractor, we're going to present tonight for some items to the board for our next GMP approval. But those are going to be very integral for us to get moving to that next step, which is having a drilling company come in. They're going to put in some what we call aggregate piers. Those go under all the foundations around the entire site. Once those are put in phases, then the concrete guys are going to come out there and gals are going to come out there and start. They're actually going to start at the lower level arena, kind of working their way up and then working our way towards the northwest corner of the building. Kind of in the November, December timeframe, you're going to see the big stair shafts on the job go vertical. So they're going to go all the way up to the roof line. And once you see those popping out of the air, you're going to get a great perspective of kind of how big the building is and kind of what the footprints are of those 4 stair shafts of that academic wing, and kind of picture frame that a little bit. Masonry and plumbing are going to start in December. Steel shop drawings and material procurements are going to start in October. And then structural steel is going to start in February of 2026. So that's kind of what the big milestones or what you can expect to see. We have a lot of work to do with the limited amount of subs that we have. It's just going to be a progression to go from one area to another. But steel starting, getting them under contract and on board here in the fall, and then leading till December is kind of that next period where we need a few more subs out there to keep rolling to maintain the progress that we're making right now. So next slide, please. So tonight, you guys have a document for our foundation bid packages. So those bid packages were the rammed aggregate piers. Those go underneath of all the foundations. Those are very integral to starting concrete. The concrete, the foundations and shaft package was bid out for the job. Below grade waterproofing. We had to bring forward the elevator because we have to coordinate the elevator manufacturer around what we're actually building for concrete. So we brought forward the elevator package and then all the foundation under drain systems. So that's the 5 packages that we put out with this GMP and got the results on. GMP results, of those contractors, all of them are very highly qualified, recommended by us to kind of move forward with, and they wound up being our 4 lows. So we got some great contractors moving forward on this job. TWC Concrete Services for concrete, CNC Foundations for the aggregate piers, Jayco Waterproofing for the waterproofing, ThyssenKrupp Elevators for the 2 elevators in the job, Selhorst Equipment Services to finish up all the under drain systems, the contractor you have out there. I'm pleased to report that the package is $102,000 under budget. So great win coming out of the gate on this one, and we want to keep that momentum kind of moving forward. We were able to get 3 to 4 bidders per bid package, which is a great turnout. And I believe this is a great win for us to keep the momentum going leading into the next packages. Just kind of giving you some bidding package timelines kind of moving forward here. So the next one that's going to hit the street is going to be the structural steel bid package. That starts on, we're going to put that to the street on August 28th. That is very critical for the concrete contractor because we need some coordination done by him and some parts and pieces by the steel guy that goes into all of our concrete walls. So that actually needs to move really fast, and we're already starting that process and should have the documents next week to put to the street. Early October for approval on that. And then we've talked about a letter of intent to get them started in September. So scope of work will start late September to get them rolling with their shop drawings and some other things.
Quick question.
Yes.
Can you explain what it means, hit the street?
So hit the street for us in contract terms is this is how we give the information to the bidders. So we use an online bidding platform. That way we solicit the bids from them and then give them all their information. So we call that hitting the street. That's the date that they actually get our bidding documents. And then they'll have, I think on this one, we got 2.5 weeks of a bidding period for them to give their bids back to us. Then we analyze them, evaluate them, make recommendations, and kind of get to where we're at tonight.
You mentioned that there was 3 to 4 bidders per package on
Yeah.
the last one. Is that typical or how?
It all depends on timing, getting out in front of the bidders. So we've already reached out to the steel market to make sure that they have a placeholder for us to put in their bidding timeline. So it all depends on kind of what the market is right now, how busy people are. Some trades are different than other trades. As a rule of thumb, if we can always get 3 bidders in every category, that is the best case scenario. But there is circumstances that, you get 1 and 2 bidders. And then those are ones that we'll try to get more and or evaluate, are they under budget? How much of a risk is it? If it's a $10,000 package, that's something different than a $3 million package.
Right.
And in some categories, there's specialized people that only do that type of work. And those are the ones that might be only qualified to kind of do a building that we have here. So we have to evaluate every bid package. But when it's probably all said and done, we'll have probably 50 bid packages when we get from start to finish on this whole entire job. One thing that we want to make sure that we're not losing focus on is the mass clearing of the south property. There's a finite window and we want to make sure that we have that bid out. So we're going to start to get that bid out here also in September. That way that when we get all the approvals to move forward, we have somebody that can go down there, remove trees, mulch them up, and then remove all the stumps and stuff. So that's a kind of a specialized package that there's about 3 or 4 people that do. That leads up to the next package, which would be the balance of the site work. So mid-September, the drawings are going to be complete for all the balance of the site work. That's going to be the south property. That's going to be the middle school bus drop off. There's a little bit of a road that goes on the north side of the building. So we're going to bid out the balance of all the site work. So we did the early site package. There's going to be another site package. And that needs to come out as a specialized package as well. Next page, please. So 4 critical elements that we need by the end of the year. They're actually going to bid concurrently with what we call the balance of the job. Those are going to be masonry, plumbing, electric, and the concrete slabs. That will allow us to get into the next phase of the job coming in here when I mentioned December 1st. So that will hit the street in October. bids through the month of October, approval are early to mid-November. And then some of those trades are needed out on the job site, specifically the mason on December 1st. Athletics and exterior amenities, I kind of put that as a to be determined because that is kind of our last package that will be out there, still waiting on timelines and stuff for when we pull the trigger with all the amenities that go on the athletic side. And then what I mean by balance of package is a balance of projects. So this would be anything from the glass and glazing contractor to the flooring contractor to every other trade that it goes into kind of building the high school. So we will put that out as one large package. That's the one where we're probably going to have 40 or so subs and trade packages kind of bidding out at once. And that's going to be the very large number at the very end that kind of completes the GMP process for what we see. So that's going to be going out October. That's probably going to take a little bit longer to navigate and or to get all of our bids leveled and kind of vetting out all of our subcontractors. So that one's going to take a little bit longer with an anticipated start date in January. And some of those trades really won't even hit the job site until probably next summer based on how big the building is and the fact that we got to bring it out of the ground and stuff like that. So that's all I had for the high school and the Columbia project. Anybody have any questions about the next steps, the bidding and or the results that we've had out there?
Well, the result of being under budget, that's a win right there. Let's
Yes.
keep that momentum going.
That is what we're striving for. All right. Well, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. So next up, if we want, Mike and I want to, Mr. Morrow and I want to kind of do a quick finance update. So no, last week, this will be somewhat repetitive for some of the information we've been sharing. We just want to make sure our community has access to the information that we're continuing to provide. And so in the presentation, Ms. Croy, if you could open that, please. Thank you. And it's go ahead and go to page 3. So with that, just want to point out a few things. So obviously on the ballot in November, we have an earned income tax with a property tax reduction. This decision and kind of the work that we've led up to this has been quite a bit of time for us to analyze the best approach moving forward that would, one, create a funding source that has some consistent revenue stream, ultimately resulting in less frequent levies while reducing property taxes for all homeowners. So the key piece for us, and I think the goals that we've been establishing over a period of time, is to analyze, what is a sustainable model that allows us to get off the 3-year levy cycle that we're projecting, and also lower property taxes in the meantime. And so one of the things that we looked at and analyzed as a board and administration is what's the best approach to do that. Do we live in the kind of the wash, rinse, repeat, the area that we've kind of lived in Kings for a long period of time, looking at additional property tax levies every 3 years in that 6 to 7 mil range, which our modeling demonstrates that it would be in 25, 28, 31, and 2034, that over that period of time, we'd be on that consistent 3-year cycle. Or do we look at a different approach that pushes us off the 3-year cycle, creates more sustainable funding, and then with the ultimate board goal of lowering property taxes for all of the homeowners in our district? This is an operational levy. We've got some questions on the bond. Obviously, in March of 24, we passed a bond that is, you heard some of the results of that work right now that is ongoing. Completely different revenue stream. It is meant just to build the buildings, to navigate the addition of Columbia, as well as the new high school and district improvements. And that's all we can spend that money on. This revenue is supporting staff salaries, benefits, with student programs, a lot of those student programs that we have. And so it's really around the operational part of the school district. So with that, we're looking at this sustainable model. So the earned income tax and a property tax reduction, this combination of those two, we believe has the best opportunity to meet the goals of long-term sustainability, eliminating the 3-year property tax levy cycle, while also reducing property taxes for all homeowners.
You can go ahead to the next one. So the 6 boxes kind of in the middle tell a little bit of a story about how we got here. So the top left projected to have a negative cash balance by August of 2027. That's ultimately why we're here having these conversations. We see that we're running out of cash, and the board and administration had to do something to get out in front of it. Options were revenue generation or massive cuts that impact our students in the classroom. It'd be remiss to point out that we meaning administration and board, have worked very hard since the last levy passed in 2022 to cut expenses or generate revenues to try to avoid this cash shortfall. $8 million, over $8 million in expenses reduced or revenue added, but it hasn't been able to push this back any further. Also want to point out that these things that we do as a district lead us to being a low cost, high value school district. We spend less than 69% of schools in Ohio while consistently performing in the top 7%. Our biggest issue is our funding and our revenues. So we pass a property tax levy in Kings, and then it doesn't grow as our community continues to flourish. And then the state funding is the big one. 91% of Ohio districts receive more in state funding than we do. We're actually slated to lose money next year after we lost money this year compared. So it's a pretty consistent cycle in Kings of not getting the state support that we need. So the decision really came of what are we going to do? How do we generate revenue? As Mr. Sear said, do we do the tried and true in Kings of ask for a property tax levy, knowing we're going to need another one in the near future, and in our case, 3 years, or do we look at things differently? So a 1% earned income tax with a property tax reductions on the ballot. Earned income meaning only income that's actually earned is taxed. So tax, retirement income, Social Security, disability, dividends, interest, all of that isn't technically earned, so it's not taxed under this proposal. And then also, of course, the one mil property tax reduction in the same ballot measure.
So that plan looks at two key points. One, long-term sustainability. So in the modeling that we've conducted around the 1% income tax, it provides funding through the duration of the 5-year forecast. So we each year, Mr. Morrow puts out a 5-year forecast where we're required by law to do that. And so during the 5-year forecast under this plan, we do not anticipate, we will not need another levy request during that period. So all the modeling we've done with that, it speaks to that we will not be asking the community for additional revenue during that time, and potentially much longer. We'll allude to that in a second. The other thing that we will add is future property tax reductions. And you will see on later on in the agenda a cash balance policy that we introduced last week to the board during the work session. This is legislation that requires an annual property tax review, where the board will look at our cash balance, determine if the thresholds outlined are met for additional property tax reductions that could occur in the future. So that policy we talked about last week, it's very important. And I think it demonstrates the long-term commitment that this board and administration have to continuing to analyze and lower property taxes beyond just this initial mill through this ballot measure. So those two key pieces are I'll be repetitive on purpose. The first one is that we do not anticipate and will not be requesting another levy during the 5-year forecast and potentially much longer. And also tonight, you will be asked to approve legislation that requires an annual property tax review that forces us to look at annually if certain cash balance thresholds are met for future property tax reductions. I say that, all of this in, obviously, the other side of that is if without new revenue, that we'll be looking at a potentially $9 million of reductions that would impact staff and student programs. So without that new revenue, we will be in a position to analyze that as well. The next slide is the ballot language. We just continue to put this up. The ballot language in November, this is directly from the Warren County Board of Elections. It's on the site for people to see, but it identifies that it is one language, one measure that that analyzes both not only the 1% income tax, but also the 1 mil reduction. The 1 mil reduction in the ballot language identifies the 2022 levy that was passed at 6.4 mils would be reduced to 5.4. So that collection would actually drop while that's repealed. So that's where the 1 mil comes from. That's the official language that the Board of Elections has to accumulate. So the 1 mil comes from a reduction of a previously passed levy. So our community will have the opportunity to vote for the issue, which means we're implementing an income tax and a property tax reduction, or against the issue, which means we would not do either of those two. So that is the exact ballot language. The other last thing I'll point out, a lot of this information, next slide, please, is in, there's on our district website, 2025 ballot issue, there is a button that is a link to all of the information that we have published, established, etc. Mr. Morrow?
Yeah, one more slide. So the board's asked how does an income tax look at other school districts that are kind of around us? We've said a few different times over the past few months that income tax is new. It's a new idea to Kings, but it's not a new idea. 210 school districts of the approximately 600 have some type of income tax. So we made a list on the FAQ on the website that basically just shows some of the districts that are close to us who actually do have this. So the question was, okay, when was it passed? And then what has their history looked like after they did pass some type of income tax? So I don't think I need to read every one of these. It's on the website, it's on the board docs, but I think there's a consistent theme in these, in that once an income tax comes into place, there's typically long spans of time before additional operating funds are approved by the community. So I think it leads credence to the fact that once you diversify your revenues, you have a better chance to get off that levy cycle.
Only thing I'll add to this, just to reiterate, Mr. Morrow, is what's different about all of these are traditional income tax levies that have been issued. And the districts listed here do not have a property tax reduction attached to that. Nor is there additional cash balance policies like the board will vote on this evening. So if a measure like this would pass for Kings, we would be looking at a considerable amount of time. You can see some comparison districts and the length of time in between asking for new revenue. At the same time, that duration that would it be in between the ask for additional revenue, this board is committed to lowering property taxes significantly during that time. I think I'll point out as well that in 2033, we have the KME and CIS original buildings bond issues are paid off. That is a 2 to 3 mils that will come off at that point in time. And with a continued commitment through our legislation to analyze property taxes and our cash balance annually, we could see that continue to grow. So what's important to this is the duration. We believe this has a great impact on the duration of asking our community for additional revenue, but also at that time, we have a huge commitment to continue lower property taxes during that period of time as well.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
The word used is passed, and I just want to confirm that By passed, you also mean requested, that there wasn't any operating levies in any of those that didn't pass.
There were some checkered throughout.
There were. Okay.
Yes, there were. So on the levy database through OSBA, there are some additional operating levies that were asked for throughout the history. And there's also renewals. So there's some where a property tax levy was passed, and then there was also a renewal of that levy. And I can provide additional information.
So it's possible the ones that say no operating levies passed, they could have had one requested in the past.
Could
1 or
have.
2 years.
Yeah, I can't speak to every one off the top of my head that they didn't have some ask during that time.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Can you explain to people that are listening why we can't project more than 5 years?
Mhm. So kind of two things. One, just in general, once you get out past 5 years, there's so many variables that are going to change. So that it's hard to make something that's accurate past that amount of time. Just too much changes over 5 years. And then two, the document that is actually it is the formal approval, and our formal best projection is it's 5 years, and that's what's submitted to the state. So that's kind of the guiding document, because that is the official projected financials of the school district.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'll say this just to compare, just as a comparison. When we looked at the enrollment and capacity studies that were completed by Matthew Cropper, almost 2 years now. It's a very similar piece with him, that you can project enrollment and projected growth very consistently for about 5 years. And then after 5 years, the variables just change. And same thing with the financial market, but also just in general, the housing market, et cetera, that you become a little less accurate as you go. I think you can make the 10-year comparison for enrollment capacity, but you're going to be really close. Matthew Cropper said the same thing. You're going to be really close for the first 5 years, and after that, the variables just change. And I think that's some of the same thing with school finances. The further out you go, the less it just becomes harder to predict.
Right. I just think it's important for us to look at this slide in particular because it shows the potential. I know you can't project more than 5 years, but the potential for it lasting much longer is significant. So it's not something to take lightly. How, let's do Goshen, for example, 1990. That's pretty awesome.
Absolutely.
Congratulations, Goshen.
Do you have any additional questions or comments for Mr. Morrow or Mr. Sears? No, seeing none. Next item on our agenda this evening is public participation. Seeing we have none, we will go ahead and move on to approval items for the treasurer. Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. So I have some additional commentary on one item, and of course, we went through all of these at the work session, but if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those. So number 9, the cash balance policy. This has actually been in front of the board 2 months now for review. I will add that because I couldn't find anybody else who's done something like this in particular, I was kind of looking at cash balance policies from other schools and looking at what some state mandates or potential legislation to craft this. So then I took the final step of actually applying it to some other schools in the area to make sure that it was realistic, and that are the thresholds so that you can see other districts that would have been giving back property taxes if this policy was enacted by them. And there are quite a few districts locally that that would have been giving back property tax. So I feel pretty good about the language of the policy, considering based on existing cash balance and compared to legislation at the state level, but then also being able to apply it to individual districts. So I think this is a really good starting place and an excellent time to get the legislation in board policy. And as time evolves, if it needs tweaked, then the board could look at that. But great starting point.
And on this policy, it says that we will prepare a plan, not we may prepare a plan, correct?
That's correct. So it outlines that we will prepare a plan, the superintendent and treasurer, and we will review, do we meet these thresholds every year?
And this meeting that we will review the cash balance every year will be in May, correct?
Well, it would have been in May, but they've recently changed the month the
Okay.
forecast would be submitted.
Okay,
So we're coming up on the forecast actually being done in February.
okay,
So you can see I modified the language to the spring forecast in case they decide they don't
They
like
change.
February anymore and they change it to another month. So as of right now, it's still going to be twice a year. And assuming, which it probably will come into law, that we now move back to February, then it would be after that February meeting.
okay. And whether it's May or February, whichever, that will be a public meeting where people could come
Absolutely.
see all of that
Absolutely.
information that's completely open to the public to see,
Absolutely.
because it's their money. So,
Mhm. 100%. So we would present on the forecast, talk about all the assumptions, all the things that go into it, and then we would follow with a special meeting to just focus on that singular piece of it. All public.
I just want to make sure that like people know that no matter who is on the board, that's a public, they, you know,
Mhm.
hopefully their goals are the same as ours, but you know.
It would take a vote of 3 of the 5 to change or remove this policy after it's voted in. So it'd have to be a pretty big turn in point of views around property taxes for it to go away.
So a hypothetical. The 35% or not to exceed 128 days, if legislature would come in to affect. I don't know how many
Yep.
years down the road that would change that. Would we need to go back and change this policy or keep this?
I think it's still a good template and it still could be kept but in theory, if the state made a level that was more restrictive than what's in this policy, then the board and district would automatically have to abide by the lower level. 35 was a good number because it's actually lower than what's being talked about at the state. So the state's saying 50% or 40%. So this is taking it even more just lower cash balance than what's already being talked about. So that's the kind of conservative piece of it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Do we have any other questions for Mr. Morrow? All right, may I have a motion to approve the items for treasurer?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Cowan?
Yes.
Ms. Groff?
Yes,
Mr. Belfrom?
Yes.
Mr. Skrull?
Yes. Next item on our agenda, we have approval items for the superintendent. Mr. Sears?
Yes, 2 items this evening. These are what we're asking the board to approve as a statement of facts. So this is information that we have shared. This is information that we just went through earlier, and it's information that we've shared with our community. And really, it's been vetted and reviewed by our attorneys to basically say these are the facts behind the upcoming ballot issue. This is why. This is what the financial context. These are the possibilities, the issue itself. This is if it's projected, what happens if it passes, and then also if it doesn't pass. So these items, as long as, and the red and blue sheet that we just recently went through, we would like the board to recognize these as kind of the facts behind the issue so that we can communicate these regularly within the community as we would. Very similar to how we approach the bond. We developed statement of facts, went through those, and the board approved those as well. So it's just an opportunity to recognize that that these is the information that will stay consistent with that information. But the board recognizes that these are the facts behind why we're in the situation we're in and why we're asking for this potential issue.
We have anything from the board? Thank you for putting these facts together. May I have a motion to approve the statement of facts?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull.
Yes. Next item on our agenda, we have approval items, Assistant Superintendent HR Business. Mr. Spinner?
Thank you, President Skrull, Kings Board of Education. 2 items under our umbrella this evening. First up, personnel. There are 2 areas that I would like to point out to the board this evening. First up, we had new staff member recommendations. We have some important support staff recommendations under new staff. Second, staff miscellaneous items and supplementals and stipends. We have recommendations for safety care trainers this evening. Safety care is an in-house safety, these are in-house safety care trainers. Safety care is a program for our staff members, particularly our paraprofessionals. It's a comprehensive program that emphasizes a positive approach to managing challenging behaviors, promoting a safe environment within our school system. Happy to entertain any questions you may have regarding the personnel agenda. Mr. Lucky.
Mr. Spinner. Next item on there is GMP number 4. We talked a little bit earlier about that. Mr. Bromback alluded to that. There's a couple items there, an amendment to the contract, and then the details of the bid package. I want to just real quick, might be the last time, might be one of many, but to commend these guys on the hard work that they are putting into this project. I'll just admit I'm probably not the funnest guy in the room at some moments. Hopefully they appreciate that and understand why we put so much heat and pressure on them to get the most we can for the community. That's really what it's all about. Every dollar that we have, we want to go into the classroom and not into something silly. So we drive that pretty hard. They do a great job collaborating with us. Mr. Bromback is super modest. When Mr. Skrull asked the question about going to the street is every day for these guys. So when they put that out to bid, they have a pretty good idea of what's going on because all these vendors are well aware of the scope and size of this project. There's not many monstrosities that are happening in the city like this all the time. So it's got a lot of eyes on it, and they're doing a really good job of driving the bid process because it is a process. So all these bids come in and they are going through them with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples with everything and aligning with them. So for them to get this done as quickly as they did, there's a ton of front-end work to be able to allow that the next big ones are going to take a little bit more time. There's a lot more parts and pieces, but I do appreciate the efforts that these guys have done up to this point. Just prospectively, you're looking at a little over $4 million, and that's not even getting us out of the ground compared to the Columbia project. So just prospectively, Lots to do, and appreciate their efforts on how they handle their business. Any questions about the GMP details?
No. All right, I have a motion to approve these items, Assistant Superintendent HR Business.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second the motion. Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips?
Yes.
Mr. Skrull?
Yes.
Ms. Cowan?
Yes.
Mr. Belfrom?
Yes.
Ms. Groff?
Yes.
Next item on our agenda, we have approval items, Assistant Superintendent Educational Programs. All right. Moving on, we have items presented by the board. Is there anything the board would like to bring up this evening?
I just wanted to ask a question as far as the in-service day before school started. How did that go?
Start and then you can add. So this year's Professional Development Day, we kind of changed up how we were organized to some degree. So the very first Professional Development Day is the morning that everyone was there. So following that opening session with Mr. Sears and the student panel that we discussed last week, our building principals had an opportunity to meet with all of the teachers to kind of work to get organized for the year. So they laid out how they'll be working to address the district strategic initiatives and just to kind of prepare for students later in the week. The second Professional Development Day was a split day. So we had in the morning, it was district directed. Again, all the teachers came back, worked in their with their building principal in different groups and teams. And then the second half of the day was self-directed. So we had great positive feedback from both teachers and principals. This organization for our PD schedule is done in collaboration with our PD team. That's made up of teachers and administrators. And so I think so far so good. It was a good couple days. Yeah.
The only thing I would say is, we've played with this beginning of the year, 2 full days PD, a day and a half. And this out of the PD team, Kim, let's try this up a little bit different this year and do a half day and then move our full PD in October. We've got really good feedback that was probably the best way to go. So we're excited about having a full day in October and maybe a little bit more around PD instead of at the beginning of the year. So teachers seem to really like that change.
Good.
Anything else to be presented by the board? No. Next item, we have a legislative liaison update. Mr. Buffalo?
Thank you, Mr. Skrull. Not much really to discuss this month. The most significant things being, the results of House Bill 96. Specifically, I just wanted to tout our administrative team and our teachers, because it seems the most significant things that are happening right now are people are scrambling to respond to some of the things from House Bill 96, specifically the cell phone policy and the AI policy requirements. And if you've been following along with us, we know that Mr. Spinner and Mr. Sears have and Mrs. Martin have worked already with implementing the changes to the cell phone policy. And we have that in the student handbooks, and Mrs. Martin and Mr. Freeman already discussed the new teacher and student guidelines during the work session this month for the AI policy. And we already had a policy on the books and made the appropriate changes. So we were ahead of that, having that stuff in place before the school year started. There's some things at the federal level, of course, that have been going on. The federal funds that have been allocated to schools across the country are now being released with, and I say in quotes, guardrails, because the guardrails haven't been specified. as to what those would mean going forward, as those funds are allocated nationally amongst districts. So we're kind of in a wait and see on that. And just another little item here that I wanted to mention is the return of the presidential fitness test. President signed an executive order to re-implement that test now. So that's something we're looking for going forward. Yeah, that's all I had. This one.
Thank you for those updates.
Sure.
Moving on, we have a student achievement liaison update. Mrs. Gruff.
Yeah. So I changed things up a little bit since it's August and we're not in the middle of the school year. So I thought rather than looking at current students, we always say once a night, always a night. So we are looking at some recent grads and some achievements that they have. And I reached out to a bunch of kids and then they forwarded on and I have gotten quite a good response. And I've wanted to see what they did this summer. And I also wanted to see what did they learn at King's that helped them prepare for this experience. So I have just a few that I want to highlight here. And I don't know, I mean, it's so exciting. I almost want to like highlight one a month and on top of our current students, just because it is really interesting to hear like how what they learned at King's is taking them into their life beyond. So I will start with Kaylee Nolan. This summer, Kaylee has been working at Procter & Gamble at their Dayton Fulfillment Center as an automation intern in the supply chain. She said she has learned so much about practical mechanical engineering application. Every day is something new, whether fixing mechanical breakdowns or process improvement through creating operating procedures or designing components. And then when I asked her, what did you learn from King's? She said, Mr. Shields' engineering 1, 2, and 3 classes remain to be the foundational moments I realized I wanted to be an engineer. I still have experiences from his class on my resume and discuss his projects regularly in my interviews. Skills like soldering, wiring, and hand and drill tools remain invaluable to me in college and in my current internship, especially when I realized freshman year that many other students at my school, she goes to Vanderbilt, by the way, had no experience with these things at all. I'm so grateful for the quality King's education I received, which allowed me to be successful in college and in the workplace. So that's one of our engineers. Next, I have Ryan Kinney. Ryan completed an externship this summer as part of the program management team at Fifth Third Bank. It was a 10-week program called their One Bank Summer Experience. He worked in person at their branch in downtown Cincinnati and was able to support different strategic initiatives across the bank, as well as gain insights on the bank's culture, how it operates, and learn about various roles at the bank to figure out where I see myself in the future. And then when I asked him what he had learned from King's, he said the presentations in high school helped me going into my professional presentations. He said he ended the summer with a big presentation, and it really helped that he had practiced that in his high school years. Next, we have Hunter Jones. Hunter began working for a large tree health company over the past 2 years and has now started his own tree business. It's called Canopy Cowboy LLC. He spent the first couple of months learning the basics, literally picking up sticks, and as time went on, he progressed to climbing more and more hazardous trees. It's a lot more intricate than I could have ever imagined, and the feeling is undescribable. Not only did I learn about nature and the world around us, but I learned about business, people, mindset, and most importantly, what I am capable of. And I mean, he sent me so many pictures. It's amazing how high this kid gets into these trees. But if you guys need a tree trimmer, Hunter Jones is your guy. When I asked him specifically what he learned at King's, he said the football program instilled grit in me that I think otherwise may have gone unfound. Thank you to all the coaches and staff of King's High School. They want the best for each and every kid at King's, and I think it's pretty special. Don't take positivity for granted. It's not everywhere. Okay, and then this is my last one for today. Nick Marshall, this summer he received a research fellowship from Ohio State that allowed him to work full-time in a research lab at Nationwide Children's Hospital. He studied how genetics, this is a lot, so let me make sure I got this. How genetics influence on stem cell development could likely or originate for pediatric brain tumors. He said, this experience has allowed me to further develop my skills as a scientist as I learn new techniques and learn from experienced professionals within my lab and department as a whole. He said King specifically taught him through their rigorous academic coursework and extracurricular involvement, he was able to be prepared for this experience after high school. I learned time management skills of balancing academic coursework with jobs, clubs, exercise, and social time during my high school years, which I use every day in college. A significant skill in being an effective researcher is time management, and I would not have been as quick in mastering this skill had I not has been as involved as I was during our time in high school. In his spare time, in July, he also rode 100 miles to raise money for cancer research at Ohio State. So clearly he has found his passion. So pretty cool stuff.
Thank you. It's gonna be hard to beat those. Those are impressive.
I know. These kids are amazing. Young adults.
Thank you, Mrs. Groff. Next on our agenda, we have executive session. We will be entering into executive session for the following purpose: to consider the employment and compensation of a public employee or official. May I have a motion to enter into executive session?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Mr. Morrow?
Mr. Belfrom,
Yes.
Ms. Cowan,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull.
Yes. Thank you. Please note that once we come out of executive session, we will go ahead and adjourn our meeting.
Thanks for coming.